So resonance creates results. And the primary reason for that is resonance actually creates reality. If we dive into the beautiful world of quantum physics, but in particular around energy, vibration, and frequency, we get an insight into how the universe has manifested itself. We might even imagine that the universe creates a little bump or ripple in the fabric of space-time. That ripple creates a vibration. That vibration creates a frequency. The frequency then creates a geometry. That geometry then influences atomic and subatomic particles to help pull and bring matter together. Now that frequency, or when there's a combination of frequency, what it does is creates a resonant frequency field. Individual frequencies that are combined, like music or like an orchestra, come together to create harmonic resonant frequency fields. And like music or orchestras, the body is exactly the same. The body is made up of multiple frequencies that come together in harmony, coherence, alignment in healthy individuals to create this beautiful resonant frequency field. And when we start to dive into that, when we start to work with resonant frequency fields or frequencies that are going to influence resonance, then we can help our clients to come back into a more stable, harmonic state of being, which is going to allow the body the best chance to start healing itself. So let me unpack what I mean by this, because I think at the core of it, certainly if you're like me, we're trying to get better results for our clients. So we're trying to tap in at the deepest level possible to help give them the shift or help influence, encourage the shift so that they can obviously heal themselves. And so at the core of this is that if we're going to do that, the deeper we can go, the more we're right at that, what we might sort of term as core issue, and then working with that core issue, then the better results that we're obviously going to have. But I think some of the issues are, firstly, that it's really easy to get caught up in what I call the presenting problem. And this is where a client comes in and then starts talking to you about the presenting problem. I've got a headache, I've got a sore foot, I've got a sore neck, I've got gut stuff going on, I've got whatever it might be. The presenting problem, the main problem that they come in with, that they think they need ultimate help with. And of course, we're going to deal with the presenting problem. But I think it's an issue if you get caught at the presenting problem, because that's not what's truly going on. And therefore not going to give us the results that maybe is going to really shift everything for that client. I think the second issue is that it's really easy to get caught in story. And I think everybody that has a problem or an issue or a presenting thing often builds story around that as to why it's there or how it came or what it's causing or the things that it's doing. And so it's also very easy to get caught in the story. I think when we get caught in story, we get caught in the surface layer. Same with the presenting problem. We're getting caught in the surface layer. And as much as we need to deal with those things, address the presenting problem, address the story, we don't really want to get caught in that. I think the other problem is that we also get caught in using outdated processes, systems, methodologies, modalities. One of my biggest criticisms about a lot of modalities is that they haven't evolved over time. They've remained exactly the same modality. And that's been great for thousands of years for some modalities. And it's worked for thousands of years. But the thousands of years that have just gone by are not the years that we're experiencing right now. Things are shifting and changing so rapidly. And a lot of methodologies and modalities just aren't keeping up. Now, we might not want to go in and, recreate all of the modalities, but if we could add something to it, it's going to make a really, really big difference. So we don't want to get caught we really don't want to get caught in, in the presenting problem, and get sort of trapped in that space. We also don't want to get caught in the story or utilizing or only having sort of more outdated sort of processes. And even though they still work, we're talking about going to really deep levels to really get big shifts, and complete shifts in today's presentations, today's reality, which is quite different to what it's been, in the past. So we need to shift that. And I think what helps us to do that is to start, with the presenting problem. I have a core question that I ask, and that core question is not that color. That core question is what's truly going on? Truly going on. This is my core question I ask. Even as things are presenting, I ask that question. Okay, that's great. I can see the presenting problem, but what's truly going on around, behind, with that sort of presenting problem? So that's the first thing that I want to do, is just expand my mind and my, what I think is going on or what's presenting, and go deeper than that. Because I think that's the second thing. When we start to move past the presenting problem, we ask that question, what's truly going on? And when we move past the story, what we end up doing is start to work deeper, because the story is not what's going on, right? The story is what they think is going on. And if they actually knew what was going on, right, then they probably, fix that or heal it or resolve it. We're really good at telling ourselves stories. We're really good at fluffing, or what I call, just fluffing about. And we create these pictures, and a lot of it's based on past perceived realities that might not be true right now. So we create these stories, and we convince ourselves of certain things which may not be the ultimate truth or reality what's going on. So we've got to move past that. And then, of course, the key here is then to really sort of shift what we're doing. Oh, not that beautiful color. We'll get to that color. We need to shift and start to work with things that are sort of state of the art, that are that are developed right now, that are emerging right now, that are working at deeper levels right now. And if we can start to do that, and maybe add that to our current methodologies and modalities to help uplift them, to give us a bit of an edge so that we can get better results, I think everything then starts to change. And I think the key to that, some of the things that you can do to actually start to shift into that is, firstly, when someone comes in presenting problem, you're asking the question, what's truly going on? The key piece here is to do what I refer to as tune into the resonance field. Resonance field. To tune into their resonance field. Let's call it here resonance so you can read it properly. Resonance. To tune into the resonant field. Because there's something really interesting that happens with the resonant field, tuning into resonance, is that, like how I started this, resonance is at the core of the whole universe and the creation of the whole universe. It is the primordial sort of tone. It's the primordial bump and vibration that informs subatomic, atomic, and matter particles of how to come together. So when we can tap into that level, we can get a deeper truth. One of the things that happens with sort of frequency is that it never lies. Frequency doesn't lie. There's no skirting around the edges with frequency. You know, when you tune a frequency to the specific thing, it absolutely works. There's no fluff around it. There's no if, buts, or maybe. It absolutely connects in. So if we can tune into someone's resonance, and remember, resonance is a collection of their frequencies. And if there's one of those frequencies, again, imagining an orchestra, if the violin's out of tune or playing a totally different song, the actual overarching resonance is going to feel a bit weird and strange. If we were sitting in that auditorium listening to that orchestra, we would probably notice something off. We might not know exactly that, oh, that was the third violin and it's the E string on the third violin. I don't play violin, so maybe there's no E string. But if it was a guitar, for example, I can tell you that, then we might not know exactly which it is. The conductor might, because he's like the practitioner, right? He's listening to the overarching resonance music that's being delivered. And I bet you he could say, right, that violin's out of tune, or that's not playing correctly, or and that's sort of what happens when we start to listen to the resonant frequency field of the body. And we're naturally tuned to this. We are naturally tuned to hear, feel, sense disharmony. It's one of the things that actually protects us, keeps us safe. For example, if you walk into a room, you instantly feel whether it's comfortable and it's okay, or there's something not quite right. Now, you might not notice it when everything's okay. When everything's in harmony, you might feel just normal. But when something's disharmonic, either with an environment, a room, or an individual, you instantly sense it. You instantly feel it. And if you've been sort of dumbed down enough, like most adults, like most of us have been, you can reflect on children and animals. You know, dogs are really good at sensing harmony or harmonics or a stable resonant field, because they'll move towards those types of people. And people who've got disharmony or disharmonic resonant field, they'll move away from. Now, some dogs are trained to move towards and notify carers and their owners whether there's a problem. They've trained dogs to recognize, epileptic fits. They've trained dogs to recognize when there's too much sugar, or in diabetes, and heaps of other things, right? Because the dogs not only sniff things out, so they can sniff certain hormones, but they're also very attuned to resonant frequency fields, and they know when things aren't quite right. So it's kind of interesting. So we want to tune into that, and at that level, where we can really sense what's truly going on beyond the presenting problem, beyond even asking that question. Because what that does then leads to is it leads to uncovering patterns. And these patterns come from story and come from the deeper work, and we start to see these patterns of behavior, patterns of presentation, these deeper underlying patterns. We can start to hear how the third violin is always slightly off tune when they're hitting an E note or something. And we can just slightly sense that. So we start to get deeper into seeing the patterns, feeling into the patterns, understanding the patterns, the frequency vibrations, how the frequencies of the body are dancing together, how they are creating a resonant field, one that is either harmonic or disharmonic. Remembering that the more harmonic someone is, the more stable and harmonic they are, generally the healthier they are. And as you start to become destabilized and disharmonic at whatever level, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever level, the body tends to then start to fight to try and bring itself back into a harmonic state. And this goes beyond sort of homeostasis, which is the physical representation of this, and into the more energetic, vibrational frequency state, which is trying to align everything back into a harmonic resonant state. Because when things are disharmonic, they can cause all sorts of issues with the physical systems of the body. And I think finally, when we start to heal, at the level of frequency, then everything starts to change, because frequency can shift basically really the fabric of everything. It can move the fabric of everything. It can help us to shift things really, really quickly, but also really, really deeply. And I find it's just this beautiful addition to any methodology, modality, or whatever it is that you're using. It's something that you can just add into the beautiful work that you're already doing, because right now there's so much research happening around frequency therapy and medicine, and the effects of frequency. It is absolutely state of the art right now, and it's so simple and easy just to add to something that you're already doing. So I think one of the key things here I want to just show you and unpack is, let's have a little bit of a chat about the tapping into resonance, because I think this is the first thing that's going to start you on this journey and really support you to deepen your work and really connect into what's going on for someone. So let's dive into how you can connect deeper into this sort of reality, because there are really 4 things that you can do, 4 steps to really sort of tap into this and sort of work with everything we've just mentioned and spoken about. Because again, what we're trying to do is take people from, let's call it disharmony or disharmonic states, and move them into harmony, and to bring their resonance, their resonant frequency field, their resonance into, from obviously disharmonic into more harmonic states. Because in a disharmonic state, what ends up happening, and I'm just going to move my image just for a minute. I'm going to move myself over here, if that's all right, just for 1 sec. Let's dive over here. Kind of fun moving myself around. Because when you're in a disharmonic resonant state, what ends up happening is that the body goes into a form of resistance against shift and change. And therefore, even if you're applying certain things, you may still see the resistance. And that could be physical resistance, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever it might be, resistance. When there's a disharmonic resonant frequency, it's kind of interesting to watch how things can go into resistance. And it's almost like the body goes into this sort of, not shock, but this little sort of space of, oh my God, I don't know what to do type of thing. Certainly when it becomes disharmonic enough, it starts to bump all of the other instruments, and it's almost like all the instruments are going, oh my God, how do we now play in line with that violin, or which violin should we be playing in? And everything starts to sort of crumble down, and that's part of the problem. And obviously the disharmonics causes all sorts of disturbances. And again, like I just said, that's going to bump, organs and all sorts of things. It's going to affect, hormones. It's going to affect, all sorts of stuff, because things are disharmonic. When we come into a more resonant harmonic state, what ends up happening is that everything starts to come back into coherence. When everything comes back into coherence, the body generally starts to come back into a peace state. Everything calms down, everything settles, and you come into a peace state. So, first step here along this journey is to start to sense and to start to feel into the resonant frequency fields. Remember, your body is already designed to do exactly this, right? It's already set up to do this. You don't have to have any supersonic skills. You just have to retrain or retune yourself to sense into resonant frequency fields. And so the key here is to just begin to tune into, and spend a moment when your client walks in the door, or even before they walk into the door, to tune into them. When we do that, part of the tuning in, which you may already be used to, is sort of tuning into the energy field. Yep, we're going to get more specific about what type of energy field, but we're sort of tapping into their energy field. Once we can sense into that, what we can do is start to sense, okay, what is the shift that we need to start creating? What is the shift? And the shift comes from, what is the location of the disharmony? So what we're searching for here is we're starting to search for, first we're sensing, oh, let's not do that color. First of all, we're sensing the disharmonic pattern or the disharmony. Second, we're then going to sense into the shifts that are going on and where are they going on, right? And when you do that, you're looking for a specific part of the body. So I often will just, just sit for a minute or just settle for a minute, get my client to settle for a minute. I often put them in a meditative state, meditating in a pyramid, because it gives them something to do, but it's a nice place to be. And then I just settle myself and just start to feel into the that energy that's coming from that person. And as I do, I start to then look at or sense into where in the body is that. So where is my mind or my energy drawn? Where am I sensing the uncomfortableness, sensing the disharmony, right? Because that's what we're looking for. So this is not going to, you're not sensing for something that feels yummy and nice and calm and, but you're just sensing for something that feels a little bit off, a little bit not quite right. Once I do that, I start to shift into really looking at where specifically is this? Where is that energy coming from? And when I do that, what I start to sense into or look for is the frequency shift. Where is there a frequency shift? And what I mean by that is, if I was to, again, be in the orchestra, right, or I was walking around the orchestra, so the first thing I do is I'm sitting back listening to the orchestra, so I'm sensing, where does something sound off, and how off does it sound? Then I'm getting up and I'm shifting into the orchestra and I'm starting to walk around and I'm starting to look at where is there, a shift in vibration or frequency. Where is that? Which violin or which thing is slightly, slightly out of tune or playing the wrong song and what I'm actually looking for is I'm looking for the vibration. Sorry, not the frequency, the vibration. Where is there a vibration, a feeling? Now you can feel this sometimes, you can feel this with your hands, you can feel it with your body, you can just sense it with your mind. Where is the vibration? And what you'll feel is when things are in a harmonic state, you don't necessarily feel any difference in vibration. When things are in a disharmonic state, you'll feel a vibration, a bump, something feels out. Because when vibrations are in this resonant harmony state, everything works together, so there's no real vibration. It's a bit like when you drive your car. If your car is sort of fairly new and it's all working properly, you don't hear any vibrations. Everything sort of vibrates together in resonance, in harmony, and the car just drives. When things start to go wrong, you might start to hear sounds or squeaks or vibrations. You'll feel it, like if you've got a flat tire, you'd feel that vibration straight away. So it's a little bit similar to that, I think. Then we're going to step into an alignment phase where we start to align with that. So first of all, we're sensing outside the orchestra. Then we're stepping into the orchestra, seeing where the vibration is. Now we're starting to align with exactly where that is. And this is where we can start to get into the where we can adjust the frequencies. And really what we're listening for here is frequency. So now we've found the violin and we're looking at, well, what needs to be tuned? What do we need to tune that into? So we're starting to align into that space so we can actually start to really look at, okay, what needs to be adjusted. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to step into the application where we might apply frequencies. We might do that to shift the harmonic state, to shift the overall resonance by shifting one frequency. Because all it takes really is one frequency to shift to then bring everything back into alignment and into a harmonic state. When that happens, the body comes into peace and coherence. It then has more energy to deal with whatever it needs to deal with, to start reconfiguring whatever it needs to reconfigure to start to become way, way healthier. And this is where resonance starts to create results through creating reality. We now start to create a more harmonic, stable state for our client, whose body then can start to shift everything. It's like the rest of the orchestra acknowledges, oh, it's that violin and that string and that note that needs shifting. We play the frequency, all the orchestra goes, oh, yes, I get it. The violin goes, oh, I get it, and starts to come into alignment with that, and the rest of the orchestra comes back into a harmonic state, and the resonant frequency field is brought into harmonic, stable states, and everything starts to shift. So remember, frequency just reminds the body how to operate effectively. It's like the frequency allows the orchestra, or reminds the orchestra, how to play that tune or that song or concerto or whatever it is. And that's what applying frequencies allows us to do. Right now, start to broaden your sensory system to feel into resonant frequency states. Start to dive a little deeper. And even as you're asking your client questions or you're testing various things, keep connected to resonance, because that's going to give you an indication, or a better indication of what's true, real, what's authentic, what's aligned, what's not aligned, and what's really going on for your client. Even as they're telling you the story, even as they're sharing the presenting problem, even as you're applying your current methodology, what you will find is you'll start to be guided even more specifically. You'll start to see a deeper level appearing, and you'll be able to apply the beautiful magic you do in a more specific, deeper sense. So I hope that's helpful. If this has been, please leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe and share this with colleagues, friends, whoever you think might benefit from this. In the meantime, until the next video, stay stable, stay harmonic, and share your beautiful light with the world. And I'll see you soon. Ciao.